It would seem that the illegal immigration crisis has unfolded and now done so in a way that will be affecting elections, whether they be local, state, or federal. This is something that many people were talking about that there was most certainly going to be negative side effects from with this mass influx of people pouring into the country, and that you would see the tilting scales of how this was being handled in more progressive areas because of the fact that they would be allowing individuals such as this to vote. But of course, as we know, the media, those within that of the government class, the apparatchiks that do nothing more than toe the line of the regime and espouse its narratives endlessly. They did nothing more than demonize and villainize these people. But the thing that we can realize is the nature of how it is the standards have shifted can be highlighted very simply. And it's with one Chuck Schumer, you see, because all you have to do is look to a clip of him in 2009 to see how it is that this was being tackled originally with sane and cooler heads. And now what do we see? The fact is that we have to shift and reassert dynamics to make sure that we can still control the levers of power and always have elections that come out in our favor. Thus, we need a new voting bloc. Therefore, we have to shift the dynamics of what it is that we espouse. So now let's go ahead and throw it into Chuck Schumer to prove exactly that.
Illegal immigration is wrong, plain and simple. Until the American people are convinced that we will stop future flows of illegal immigration, we will make no progress on dealing with the millions of illegal immigrants who are here now and on rationalizing our system of legal immigration. The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers and all of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented there are here.
Thank you, Chuck Schumer, for proving the point that it is very apparent that you want a permanent voting bloc, and, well, I would argue that that would give you a large portion of control in elections going forward if you were to give, as you say, these 11 million undocumented individuals citizenship, which means what? That they would then have the ability to vote, and if you're the one giving them citizenship, then by all means they would be loyal to you and the Democratic Party, which means you have effectively a permanent majority. It's very obvious how this works here. But not only that, we can see that it's not just 11 million people, it's to the tune of roughly 15 to 20 million people that are now in the country. So let's just go ahead and keep that in mind. But the thing that I would love to address here specifically in relation to this topic, illegal voting by non-citizens is rare, yet they're making it a major issue this election. It's because of the fact of illegal immigration being a major factor in this election because of all the people pouring into the border. But as we know, the media gaslighting will just sit there and turn around and say, well, I don't understand why this is such a problem for you. How come you're highlighting this now of all times? Absolutely ridiculous. And if you would like the four-step process as to how it is they operate with something such as this, here you go. 1. It's not really happening. 2. Yeah, it's happening, but it's not a big deal. 3. It's a good thing, actually. 4. People freaking out about it are the real problem, because what you're dealing with right now is step 2, and we'll soon be moving into step 3, and then guaranteed step 4. This is simply how these things always unfurl. Now let's go ahead, jump in, and see what we've got with this article from the Associated Press. Illegal voting by non-citizens is rare, yet Republicans are making it a major issue this election. Jumping in now with this short article from the Associated Press, here we see, only U.S. citizens are eligible to vote this fall's election for president and other top offices. While that is nothing new, the potential for non-citizens to register or vote has been receiving a lot of attention lately. And why might that be? Well, we've already explained this because of the fact of what very well may lie on the horizon with this mass influx of people that you're bringing into the country, and with people like Chuck Schumer, someone who assists in writing the laws and passing them, stating that we need to give citizenship to all 11 million undocumented people, which realistically it's roughly 15 to 20 million at this point. We can understand that that would be the permanent voter bloc that they would want, that would most certainly always swing for the Democrats because they are the ones who granted these people citizenship, as we've already stated. But of course, a conversation such as this that we're having right now, this is very obvious and apparent. but the media will never tackle this angle of it. And why? Because they have to make sure they can do nothing more than muddy the water and disseminate propaganda and then paint Republicans as the villains in this situation. And I'm not even a Republican. I just understand the nature of the left-right tribal binary framework that we see established within the corporate press is always nothing more than felonious bullshit, which is exactly why I will not be falling for it, and neither should you. Let's get back to it. Citing an influx of immigrants in recent years at the U.S.-Mexico border, Republicans have raised concerns about the possibility that non-citizens will be voting and that they have taken steps in numerous states to address that prospect, even though cases of non-citizens voting are actually rare. Let's just go ahead and take it back mentally to the four-step process that we had just covered, and you can understand where it is that we are on this timeline. Here's another thing I would like to address specifically, that we've already gone through the four-step process on the topic of illegal immigration and people flooding into the country as a whole, because it started off by stating this is a bad thing, then it was actually no, this isn't even happening, then it's actually this is happening and it's realistically not happening much, then it's actually it's happening and it's a good thing, then it's yes, this is happening and you're a bad person for opposing it, which is exactly the scale of evolution that we saw happen in relation to what? The illegal immigration crisis itself. Moving on, GOP officials have undertaken reviews of voter rolls, issued executive orders, and placed constitutional amendments on state ballots as part of an emphasis on thwarting non-citizen voting. Some Democrats contend the measures could create hurdles for legal voters, are unnecessary, and lead people to believe the problem of non-citizens voting is bigger than it really is. And I would highlight the fact that non-citizens voting specifically would not be the major factor when you consider future elections because of the desire for these people to be made citizens and then, like I've said and I will say again, to be made a permanent voting bloc. What does the law say? A 1996 U.S. law makes it illegal for non-citizens to vote in elections for presidents or members of Congress. Violators can be fined and imprisoned for up to a year. They can also be deported. Ah, well, as we know with the current standards, we're most certainly not going to see deportations under the arm of the Democrats' control, so you can go ahead and scratch that from the record. Here we see when people register to vote, they confirm under penalty of perjury that they are U.S. citizens. Federal law requires states to regularly maintain their voter rolls and remove anyone who is ineligible, a process that could identify immigrants living in the country illegally. And that's true, but what would be most interesting about that is if you were to see, I don't know, state actors actually being the ones who were putting these people onto the voter rolls. Now that would be something quite fascinating. And of course you would expect this to happen in some place that would be, I don't know, progressive as can be perhaps. Maybe like Oregon. Oh, would you look at that? From the New York Post, Oregon reveals hundreds of non-citizens were mistakenly registered to vote since 2021. And here's the deal, it's not just a couple hundred, it's actually roughly over 1,200 non-citizens, which is what this audit had found, and the rumors are that this is happening across the country, and reports coming in are proving that. Here we see how non-citizens are getting voter registration forms across the U.S. and how Republicans are trying to stop it. And specifically, the way that this is happening is through the welfare system. They're going to the welfare offices and they're being given these voter registration forms despite actually being able to vote legally. So once again, what we see is, despite the fact that it being proclaimed as illegal, that doesn't matter if the people that write the laws and reassert the dynamics that you operate under are the ones who are shifting the game itself. Because if that's the case, then you need to realize it doesn't matter what is actually quote unquote illegal, because all that matters is what the power structure asserts can happen. That's what you need to pay attention to. I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you for watching if you got this far. Thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section down below. This last article is pretty solid. Go ahead and check it out. Well worth your time. Stay lovely, stay great. Most importantly, my friends, go ahead, go out there and tell someone you love them. They'll appreciate it and you'll feel better having said it. Peace out.